We're back at the apartment. What's going on, guys? I'm Weston Mack, and welcome back to One More Minute, the show where each day I get 1 more minute to talk about whatever I want. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about choir. Yes, your favorite activity that you accidentally got signed up for in middle school or high school. But if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. I've been loving the support on the channel recently, like lots of growth. While the viewership hasn't been insane, the growth has been a lot. So the people who are watching these videos, you're loving them, you're enjoying it. And please leave some comments down below for either suggestions of videos or different ideas or just comments in the video. So, choir. I make that joke about people being signed up randomly because A, they didn't have an elective, or B, the elective they wanted filled out, so they had to be put into this elective instead. Because it's very true. Choir is definitely the dumping place of people who didn't get the elective they want, and the registrar or whoever was involved with making their schedule just kind of gave them choir instead. And as a choir person, we accept these strays. For a little bit of time, I always thought, I hate these guys. They're so annoying. They don't participate, all that sort of stuff. But that's normally the case for either choirs that don't bring in these people, that don't kind of let their guard down and let this random baseball player or math kid or whatever come into the choir and actually be able to enjoy the experience and kind of take them in. That's normally what's happening, is that they don't feel included because they really aren't included. So therefore they kind of act out and just not doing the work. Normally that all fixes itself by the time the spring comes around, but I'll get more into that in a second. What's my background in choir, is I'm sure what you guys are wondering about. And as somebody, which I believe in 2025, this year, I believe it's been a decade of being a part of a choir or vocal training, generally growing my vocal prowess, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I've been doing this for roughly a decade, which is insane to think about, that I've been doing this since I was 11. But I mean, that pairs into comparison to my acting, which I've been doing since I was 5, which is 6 years before that. Yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, but yes, my choir general journey can be sourced from 2 major sources. One can be my first ever private lessons I took in California, and the other was also my growth for the general love of choral and choir, which came from doing and being a part of a high school and middle school choir. So we'll start with really the origin point. Technically, my first choirs were like church choirs, and I was really little. But really what I actually got into choir, it was my vocal teacher, Anush. And she was really the first person to start discovering my voice and allowing me to figure out what the heck I'm gonna do with my voice. I knew generally I had, while it's not perfect pitch, like you can't give me a note and I'll be like, ah, that's not really how it works for most people. Perfect pitch is more aligned with being able to hear a note and replicate that note. And even going beyond that and maybe doing scales or being able to shift across that, while those are more learned talents, being able to just hear a note and being able to replicate it is surprisingly a difficult feat for a lot of people. I mean, for me, not to sound braggy, it's just kind of how it is. Like, I can hear a note and replicate it, but I've known people who have trained and have learned, but necessarily don't know how to do that properly, can't hear the note and replicate it. And so that was kind of my baseline, where I knew I could at least do that. I knew I could sing along to a tune. And for some people, that just isn't an option. You've heard the plenty of white girls on the radio, white girls listening to the radio that just are something else. They just really don't hear it. And not to be mean, but that's too much of a case scenario for too many people. But that was really my first starting to find my vocal prowess. And I would get little snippets of musicals and songs and to try to replicate that and slowly grow my range. And at the time, I didn't know we were eventually going to move back to Texas, but we eventually would, and I would stop those private lessons. And then we would lead into going to middle school. Did I initially sign up for? I did. I initially signed up for broadcasting and choir when I first moved back to Texas, and you had to have two extracurricular activities attached to your name or whatever. And I signed up for broadcasting and choir. Broadcasting was full, and so I went with I didn't even go with. They gave me teen leadership, which would eventually lead to later stuff, which I think I might do like a whole middle school saga, just talking about middle school. It's a whole very interesting experience. But yes, middle school choir was one of the most foundational parts. It grew the very basics. I understood pitch matching. I understood what a note should sound like. I had general ideas of where the breath and vocal patterns should be in my body and being able to listen to notes. That was the very basics. Stuff that if you're a choir kid, because I was starting off at like 11 or so, which means if I were to, compete against some kid who had been starting in choir since they were very little, sort of private lessons or in church choir and stuff like that, I would be on the back foot. But I got that basic foundation down, and then middle school choir completely changed how, not necessarily how I sung, but how I really saw singing and choir in general. I think for a lot of people, most of their choir experience is either from going to church, whether you're Catholic or whatever, or is it Methodist? That's the church choir? I'm not sure. But seeing those church choirs, or you've either seen them during Christmas time. And what I mean by that is either like the Home Alone church choir or carolers. That's generally the choirs you've seen, like 4th of July, like those big events. And that was the majority of my interaction with choirs that I can remember. And so, yes, I ended up joining middle school choir, and my director, Miss Ross, who was just a complete beast for a middle school choir. In my opinion, she should have been teaching high school, which I think she eventually did go on to either teach high school or college. She graduated from Rice with a degree in music education, I believe. And I mean, she was just a complete beast at being able to understand what the choir needed, but also be able to tell extremely interactive lessons. I think that they felt like very interactive, which is super helpful as a middle school kid. But also, they were high level participating classes. When it comes to choir, some of the basics obviously are things like breath control and not straining your voice and stuff like that. But it even goes farther to your mouth shape, whether your soft palate is up or literal mouth shape, like stuff like that. And you would think whenever you say E, it's widening your mouth, but when you sing it in choir, it's E. As you can kind of hear there is a weird change in tone. It's E or E. They sound the same E, right? It's insane. It's literal magic. And so when you're singing that, it's almost like you're shaping a instrument, like a trumpet horn or whatever. And so E or O or Ah, stuff like that is mind-boggling to me. And I learned it in middle school, which I don't feel like is that common. I know there's great middle school directors out there, and if your middle school director taught you that, that's great too. But having that knowledge going into the future of my choral career, I guess, definitely helped a lot. And also, speaking of that, the reason why I'm talking about choir is I'm actually filming this in between choir. I have a choir class at noon or a little afternoon, and then I have a choir. It's the continuation of that class late at night, because we sometimes have late night rehearsals, and I'm actually filming this right in between this. So literally, as soon as I turn off this camera, I'm sprinting over to choir. So middle school choir really kind of opened my eyes to what I could do as an individual. I always had a generally large range. I've never really gone through a vocal shift in terms of, obviously, I sound low. I have a low voice. But I never really went through the awkward for a while, or at all, really. And so I've always been relatively connected to my full main range. Now, we'll get into falsetto later, which falsetto is your like that sort of stuff. It's all your very high pitched stuff, stuff that isn't using your main like diaphragm and lower body and everything. It's all your like head voice. But yes, middle school was really that next big part of my base that would allow me to excel far faster than I think anybody around me really was at the time, and allowed me to really stay ahead of the competition, depending on how much effort I wanted to put into it. When it came to going into high school, actually before that, my first ever competition for choir was in middle school. It was my 8th grade year, and we have this thing called UIL in Texas. And some states have this, but they're all state choir. And so depending on your region, your area, all that sort of stuff. Normally middle school normally doesn't have all levels of choir, but how it works, I'll explain it in high school. But you have your regionals or your district, which is just like your general schools that are next to you, like right next door to you. Your regional, which is those same schools with a couple extra people. Your area, which is like all of your city and stuff like that. And then state, you're going against everybody in your state and these big divisions of your state. And so whether that's 6A, 5A, 4A, stuff like that. And I, of course, went to a 6A high school. We'll get into that story in a minute. But when it comes to middle school, it just is your region. It skips district, but doesn't go any farther beyond region. And that was my first ever actual choir competition where I'm going up against other people. And you're only given, you're giving a full piece of music, a big piece of music. But on the day of the competition, you're then giving, okay, from this measure, which is a point in time on your score is your piece of music. But between this measure and this measure, you will then sing this, and this is what you'll be judged off of. And you're only giving 2 to 3 songs per audition. And so during that day, you get there super early, about 8 or 9 a.m., and you go through everybody one by one, normally by your section. And what was so weird is over the course of the day, people got put through, auditioned, and for some reason, all of the basses in my choir, next in the district and region, were all auditioned. And I'm sitting there, and we got there maybe like about 8 or 9 a.m., and it's like 3 o'clock at this point. And I'm sitting there, and I don't like to eat anything while I'm there. And normally, a lot of the time for these competitions, it's all cafeteria food or pizza or canes. So it's very greasy, kind of bad, grimy food that you don't want to be eating before you're about to go sing. And I decided, okay, I'm going to wait. This shouldn't take very long. From what I've heard, like normally it takes a few hours. That's fine. I'll starve for like a little bit, and I'm okay. I really wouldn't even starve very much. I have water, I have some little snacks or whatever. I'll be fine. And so from 8 to 3, I haven't eaten. Pizza's been sitting around for hours, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, what is going on? I'm letting my director know. I think my mom might have been there. I'm not sure. Not thinking about it. Oh no, I don't think she was volunteering for that one. But I let my director. I'm like, I haven't auditioned yet, and so literally, I was the last person to audition in the entire region. The last person. And they actually had to put the curtain back up because they put the curtain down to start judging and going through the scores. And they forgot about me. For somehow, my name slipped through the system. And so then I went up, I did an audition. I'm like, I am tired. And keep in mind also, you can't sing the songs anymore. You can't go and perform these songs after the initial warm-up. You can warm up and sing these songs fully, but you're not allowed to go into another area, another space, and fully sing. You can obviously hum along to stuff, and you're really not supposed to use your phones. But I hadn't sung since warm-up, which was probably about 9 or 10 a.m. So at this point, I'm freezing cold in terms of my vocal warmth. I'm dying. And I'm just like, I'm sitting here starving. I just want to get this audition over, and so I can go eat some cold pizza. So I finish my audition, I go back, and I'm just so exhausted, tired, and done with this whole process. I'm like, if this is gonna be every audition, this sucks. No wonder whenever they brought up All-State and UIL, people just didn't want to do it. And so we're sitting there, and they normally try to do the results the day of. So they finished calculating all the results about an hour or so later. And we're sitting there, and they go through from bottom to top about where everybody's placed. So you go through your extras, so your people who are extra seated to be like, so in case somebody gets sick, they can call them in, they can come sing. And they're going section by section. The base section was the last section. And I think it was the top 21 made it. And they're going number by number. And I'm sitting there, and they're getting through like the top 10. And I'm like sitting there like, I just didn't make it. After all this time, I spent sitting there, literally starving for hours on end. I didn't really, in my opinion, get that far of an audition. I'm sitting there, I'm just so annoyed. I got first chair. I got number 1 chair in the region. I was the last person to audition. Was it recency bias? Maybe. Was it them feeling guilty for making a 12 or 13-year-old sit around for 6 hours not doing anything? I hope so. But man, yeah, I ended up getting first chair, and that experience of being able to then go sing with the region choir, basically those people will then go and sing the songs they auditioned, and that whole experience is a lot of fun. But also keep in mind, over the years, I've had very similar groups of people that have been around me, and some of these people would eventually graduate with me to go to high school, and I would still talk to them even through college. And so this was definitely a very memorable moment. Memorable so much, but I'm thinking about it, that I actually have this. I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna do this. So, I actually have this in my wallet. I've had this wallet. I got this wallet. So, we didn't know whether we needed to bring cash or cards or an ID, like our school ID. And I was given this wallet whenever I went to regionals for middle school. I didn't have a wallet before. And it's this Rawlings Quality Goods handcrafted wallet. It's like the same company that makes baseball gloves. And in this is 2 things. Let's see here. One. Okay. So at the bottom here, so it's not perfect. You can kind of see it. I don't know if you can read it. You can see here, I think it might be flipped. Let me read it off. So it's the JHMS Tenor Bass Regional Audition, McClelland Joseph, my name, Fort Settlement Middle School, Bass 1, which in middle school you really don't do more than just one type of bass, 5711-25. So I was bass number 25, I think, to audition or something like that. And so they skipped me somehow. I didn't get my number called. And then I have this, which is my actual name tag for whenever I auditioned. Okay, whenever I whenever I actually made it, which is bass 1 of 1 part tenor bass. One of the coolest things ever. And obviously I keep it with me every day. I actually almost lost that wallet. And yeah, that's history, man. It's one of the coolest experiences, and one of the best payoffs, because I did put a lot of practice into it, and it was really neat. So that's really what got me into competing more, and really, while obviously the competition factor is a lot of fun, it really kind of pushed me to finally okay, I'm gonna keep doing choir. Let's do it in high school. And I want to do more talking about this aspect of my life, the high school era, by bringing in people from that era and literally talking to them about stuff. And so we'll get more into the general high school stuff later on, but specifically about choir. My freshman year, I was in the men's choir. You're not allowed to join the mixed varsity choir or the chorale choir until after you've been in the lower level choir for a year. This rule would change later on, the year after I would do it. Somebody else would make it immediately into varsity, which was a little annoying, but we don't talk about that. But yes, my boys, my guys, yes, that was a very fun time to be with those guys. I was still doing regionals and stuff like that in the fall. Solo and ensemble was in the spring. And just being with those guys was a different feel. And we had a wide variety of people in the choir. We had For instance, me and Hassan and Clay, Tommy, these guys are all people who have been in choir, were actually in the middle school choir with me, and I'd sung with them before. Then you had people like James, who I played football with and also played baseball with, and he had actually a few other baseball guys with us, but somebody who had never done choir before, other than I think a little bit, like a very long time ago. And yeah, this core of people, you have more. See who else I can think of that was in that main first choir. There's Clay. There's some more people in there I'll talk about in the future. But yeah, it was a wide variety of people. You had people coming from different sports, different activities, and wanting to either try out choir or they had to do choir as an elective. Well, when it came to electives at our high school, you had to do at least one full year of any art. And some people picked choir. And so whenever James picked choir, it was one of those things where it was just like, let's just get this out of my way. It's freshman year, I'm not gonna do this. His sister did do choir for 4 years, which I think was one of the things that pushed him to do choir. And eventually, he loved it that first year, and I think so did a lot of us. Eventually, a lot of us would get promoted to varsity and sing at the varsity level, which is with the women. And also when it came to excelling as a choir, we really were something very special. My sophomore year, we had the most insane lineup of people ever. You had people who had been in choir for years. When it came to this choir in particular, so you had singers that were like just absolute beasts. You had basses and tenors that were just amazing. I'm getting text, sorry. You had basses and tenors that were amazing. You had sopranos and altos that just sounded just absolutely beautiful. And this like culmination of just a ridiculous crew led to us doing really well in UIL. Now, UIL is another big competition. It's your main kind of like, if your choir is performing well, if you're doing well as a director, this is where you're basically judged as a director and as a choir. And at UIL, you're judged between a 4 and a 1 scale. A 1 is a perfect score. A 4 is like, you sung, right? Different song, same song. This is the same song. Oh, I have to talk to you after this. That was kind of like the feel. When it came to our choir, 1 was like the minimum. Now, there was another aspect where while you would learn songs over the course of the year and you perform this in the spring for UIL, you also had the sight reading factor. Sight reading is a type of reading that is well established in the middle school and high school system. Sight reading is reading by sight, but you can't do it like band or orchestra where you're literally playing a note. You actually have to say the solfege, which solfege is the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the sound of music. And so we basically are given a fresh piece of music, and then we read off that piece of music. Now, it's in sight reading format, which is not like a super hard format. It's not like you're reading Beethoven for the first ever time and you have to sing that. No, you're getting a sight reading piece of music that has, you then read the solfege off and stuff like that. And all the years that we did UIL, we got perfect scores. But one of the years, my sophomore year, my first year in varsity, we actually decided to record our songs and submit them to the state, to Texas Music Educators Association, TMEA. That is the #1 place in Texas to have your music reviewed and potentially be ranked amongst the best in Texas. And by submitting that, you're then putting your name up to be like, hey, we think we're really good. We think we're potentially one of the best choirs in the state of Texas. Review our stuff and see what you like. And if they like your stuff enough, you can get invited to be a part of the Texas Music Educators Association convention and be basically ranked the #1 choir in the state of Texas. And in my sophomore year, we submitted our music and we became the #1 ranked choir in the state of Texas for 6A, which is the biggest school type out of any other schools in Texas. Which, once again, back up at the top, baby. While I was doing well in All-State and doing all that sort of stuff, this was a really cool moment. We got to go and perform in San Antonio. Was it San Antonio? Oh, in San Antonio, because we went on an Austin trip another year. And yeah, we ended up performing on Valentine's Day, and 2 weeks later was spring break. That spring break, we never came back to school because it was COVID. That is one of the most insane things, in my opinion. While there was other things going on, I had other sports and things like that. But when it came down to like that timeline, we went from literally the highest of highs, the biggest performance I think any of us have ever done before, all the way to a year later, we'd be performing in our cafeteria for our parents, and that would be it for high school. And that's when I kind of decided, okay, well, I can't just end it off here. And that's when I decided to join college choir, Sam Houston Choir. And funny enough, I already knew the director, which is the craziest thing in the world. That director, Dr. Hinckley, well, she's getting married. She's actually changing her name, which is really neat. Yes, Dr. Hinckley, I actually met her a couple years prior, because you have this thing called clinicians where people will come in and kind of help you out with songs and different pieces of music. And we actually had her come in for our TMEA performance. And so I met her, and she ended up recruiting me to the choir I'm in currently. Now, I actually have about like 40 seconds left until this video ends, and then I have to book it to that choir I'm talking about. So I'll get more to that in the future. We'll talk about the more college life and high school life and stuff like that. But if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to hear more about this adventure that I'm currently on, subscribe. Come hang out. Put post notifications on. Do all that sort of stuff. I did like the Joe Biden thing, like, I'm serious. I'm talking. Yeah, I really gotta book it like right after this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna grab my keys. I'm gonna go ahead and head out. I'm gonna head out, guys. So I'll talk to you guys later.